Okay, so it's only my rocket can carry, the horse works, you know.
Okay, Tim.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The village of New Paltz announces that we are on the traditional land of the Muncie Esopus and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The village further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our village and town was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge and honor the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. The village of New Paltz encourages everyone to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the Indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting the sites that are on our minutes. And if you have resources that you believe should be included, please contact us.
I'm gonna add a couple of items to the agenda. So on the consent agenda, I'm gonna add item 3B, 4A, and 5A. I move that we adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Um,
On the business agenda, item number 1.
oh, wait, we're supposed to add the, oh, wait. Never mind. Yeah, it was not updated.
What was it?
Yeah.
You got it. I didn't put it yet.
Yeah, check it out.
Thank
So
you.
on the business agenda, we're gonna have a discussion regarding the public access. Then we have an idea to discuss regarding a sales tax resolution that we could send out to Ulster County. And item number 3 is a response to the town board vote against default apartments annexation. And number 5 has to do with 66 Church Street acquisition of property. And for the agenda, I'm also going to include an update on the Hampshire Park basketball and pickleball courts. We're also going to have a discussion about the village manager position and the discussion about the senior affordable housing units that are available at Harmony Hall now. And we're gonna have a discussion about the county IDA and county communications regarding pilots. I'm also gonna put in this little asterisk and speak about the 151 property. And I'm also gonna add item number 9 regarding the village revolving loan fund. And an update regarding the speed study that we just received today includes the results of the speed study as well as a proposed resolution. And another item to include in this agenda, a $1,000 stipend per year to be paid $500 after every 6 months of service to our arborist. And then also a resolution regarding stillbirth awareness and prevention. So I move that we set the agenda, the business agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? So next up are announcements. Is that right? Okay, so having served as village mayor for 11 years, a couple of times I've had to do this. So we've had instances in the past where community members have been what I would consider inappropriate or aggressive with staff. Could be building department staff, could be folks in the clerk treasurer's office. And I just think it's really inappropriate and disappointing and unbecoming. So I'm bringing it up in this public setting. So when we have situations where someone feels it's appropriate to write a letter to the newspaper and defame an employed individual and be perfectly okay with misinformation, incorrect facts, you know, as an elected official, folks can go after us all day long. I'm a big First Amendment person. I don't enjoy it, but it's a reality in that we have to deal with it. But I think it's really troubling, and I just want to be officially on record that I'm troubled by the idea of just like trying to take shots at employed individuals who work for the village of New Paltz. So I just wanted to share that publicly.
You're here.
I third that motion.
It wasn't a motion, just an
Yeah,
announcement.
An announcement. I want to just have some dates shared for skate park, related things. So, I had a couple good, just like one-off meetings with different members of the skater community in the past 2 weeks, and one just texted me to say, have a good meeting, don't forget to share. So I'm doing it Gonzo. So we are gonna do our next Adopt a Highway cleanup on Sunday, October 12th, new start. There will be a Facebook event and flyer and all of that coming soon. But that's Sunday, October 12th at noon. We'll meet up kind of on the Stewart's end of the stretch that we adopted on North Chestnut and clean and chat. And then afterwards, if people wanna all get some hot dogs together, we can do that. Or ice cream across the street, whatever, something to hang out. And then, we're gonna start planning, there's a couple punk bands in town that really wanna support, World Go Skate Day.
Yeah.
So I have to, like, we have to sit down and do like paperwork, to permit and whatnot for the park and stuff, but, World Skate Day is Tuesday, it's in April, but the best day close to it would be Sunday, April 19th. So we're going to do a celebration on April 19th and bring out the pop-up skate park features and get some of the old bands and new bands back together to support this community day.
Any other announcements?
I got them. All right, so call for volunteers. The Affordable Housing Board has 2 seats, including the chair. I'm double checking on what the Emergency Preparedness Committee needs. The Environmental Policy Board always needs researchers, so if anybody in high school or college, or anybody who has any background in research wants to come forward to help with the Environmental Policy Board, please let us know. The Historic Preservation Commission needs 2 alternates. The Landlord-Tenant Relations Council needs 1 neutral party, 1 landlord, and 2 tenants, and that includes the chair. The Planning Board needs 2 alternates, and the Shade Tree Commission needs 1 member. As always, I'm gonna say, please help our neighbors at Family of New Paltz. They always need feminine hygiene products, personal care items, food. They do all kinds of stuff. They help people pay their bills, so they always need money. If you have any, every little bit helps. I'm also going to help announce that they did the first one already this month, but monthly community dinners are the first Thursday of every month. Come hungry and enjoy a delicious meal, good company, and welcoming space for all ages at 6 p.m. till 7:30 at 51 North Chestnut Street. And computers for older adults. By that, they mean 55 and up, Tuesdays at 10 o'clock until 11:30. You can bring your own device or you can use theirs. As always, our free food fridge is open here at Village Hall. Please donate what you can. Don't forget to label it. You can go to millionsofbutterflies.org to see what the rules are. And if you need food, come get food. It's 24/7. And I think that's it for today.
Okay, any other announcements from the board?
Just Saturday to Sunday is the 68th annual library fair, and that's in the Memorial Library. It's free admission.
Yeah.
I think there's 30,000 books to choose from. Hours are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday. And many of those items are don't have price on that Sunday. So that's the biggest fundraising event for the library for the year. So please come to your local library.
One last thing. Standing Stone gathering of local indigenous people and culture is happening on Saturday and Sunday as well. And it's happening at Stone Mountain Farm at 310 River Road Extension, which is here in the town of New Paltz. And you know, all are welcome. It's all day, Saturday and Sunday, I believe, yeah, Sunday we'll be planting the tree of peace at 9 AM till noon. And we're renewing, that's on Sunday, and Saturday we're renewing the Nichols tree, at 9:30 till 11, which we do every year with the county. And then
All right. So then we're gonna jump into public comment. Anyone here in person interested in a public comment? And then Loza, you caught me off guard. I never would have guessed you're making a public comment. Just, I've never been here without you making a public comment. Come on up to the table.
Okay, first thing I'd like to thank the board for taking care of the 2 trees on North Oakwood Terrace. They were leaning heavily and the arborist agreed with me. Unfortunately, that they couldn't just take one limb. The cost of taking down the whole tree and the one limb were almost the same. So they took that down. Second thing I'd like to bring to your attention is Alaska is supposed to get 8 inches of snow this weekend. And the last thing is, I see you have a draft here for a village manager. Where can I get a copy of that? Is it online or is it available?
The law is online.
Okay. All right.
We're gonna speak to it later.
Yes, I saw that. Okay, that's all.
Good stuff. Did you, and I believe your plan was to replace the trees that were removed,
Well, I
right?
can't put it, I don't know, that Valerie dealt with that, but Valerie's,
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for.
okay,
Offer.
yeah, springtime,
That's not automatically assumed, that I know that you.
well, it's Oakwood, so we're going to put oak trees there.
Right, and I, yeah, you don't have to do that,
No.
but you chose to do
You
that.
did your
so
part,
I'm
so
thanking you.
I can do my part. Springtime, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Any other public comments?
Okay.
Okay, public hearing, so I move, I think, did we open the public hearing at the last meeting for 25 miles an hour?
Okay, excuse me, I'm sorry, Kitty Brown has her hand raised, but I don't know if that's for public comment or public comment.
I am not here to speak about the 25-hour speed limit.
So you just want to make a public comment in general?
Well, when do you have public comment about items on your public hearing agenda? Is that all together?
public
Well, we have
comments?
3.
Oh.
We have 3 public hearings on this agenda, and you're also welcome to make a public comment about anything you want.
Well, in that case, I will just quickly thank Stana for reminding people about how much help family needs. And we are currently working on the town budget. And every year we allocate $30,000 in our A line to support Family of New Paltz. So thank you, Stana, for bringing that up. And I will hold my public comments about the village manager position until you get to that part of your agenda.
Perfect. So we opened the speed limit public hearing at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone here or online interested in making a comment? Okay, I'm gonna propose that we go ahead and close the public hearing with the intention of taking a closer look at the resolution between now and the next meeting and adopting the potentially adopting the law at the next meeting as well. Okay, because we only received that today, so
Yeah.
you know, we should have more time for us to digest that as well as for the community. So that will be publicly available and it will be on our next agenda. So I move that we close the public hearing regarding the speed limit change. Something, all in favor?
Aye.
I move that we open the draft law regarding a village manager.
Second.
Anyone here want to make a public comment? Come on up, Mike.
Here.
Come right here so the mic can get your.
Thanks. Thanks, yeah, so, I saw that you guys introduced this.
Introduce yourself, please.
My name's Michael Zeeler, I live in the Village of New Paltz. Hello, nice to meet you all. Yeah, so I heard 2 weeks ago that you introduced this, and I just had a couple of questions. They're sort of about the existing version of this and
more procedural than opinion. So it'd be nice to know, although you probably wouldn't include it in the law, if you could, tell us something about the anticipated salary range for this position. And I see that you have residency that's as broad as Ulster County. It would, be nice to have a discussion among you all about possibly, constraining that a bit to perhaps just the town of New Paltz. There might be some advantages to having somebody who has more familiarity with that community. And also, if, as you discuss it, it would be good to get some idea of the timeline of this. It's a pretty significant change potentially to our administration.
We're gonna discuss this
No, I
in
know.
detail later.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I understand, so I'm just raising points that I hope we're gonna cover. I'm not expecting to answer these now. The other thing is about the law itself, there's about, in section 35(6), there's powers and duties, there are about 19 things that are covered, and I would say at least 12 to 15 of these are things that are currently done by other people in the village, largely perhaps the mayor and a few other things. And it feels to me like these are being transferred to a different individual. And I recognize that section 35-9 specifically says that nothing is being transferred, abolished, or curtailed related to powers and duties of any elected officials and treasurer and clerk and attorney. And perhaps the reason for 35-9 is to avoid triggering a mandatory referendum, or maybe there's some other basis for that, but those two don't quite square in my mind. It feels to me like there's an awful lot of stuff that's being transferred to the proposed village manager, that are currently responsibilities of, I would say, mostly the mayor, but certainly perhaps some other appointed positions. And so I would just like to consider the fact that I don't think those things jive too well, and that I hope there will also be a discussion about perhaps a permissive referendum by the board, for something as significant as this potential change, as well as better understanding why this is coming up now, especially in the context of proposals for consolidation. And also, if indeed something like this were to go into place, because of the number of responsibilities that are being given to this appointed individual, it seems arguable that there should be a discussion about the mayor's salary being reduced, because there's much less responsibility, I think, for the mayor under these circumstances. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
any other public comments here before we go to Kitty, who wanted to comment on the draft law? Kitty, the floor is yours. You.
Yeah,
Well, we can hold the spot. Let's talk with Joe, and then if Kitty comes back online, she can make her public comment.
she's there and I'm muted.
Maybe she just got a cup of juice or something that's coming back.
Hi, sorry, somehow I crashed my computer and I can't find my notes on the village manager position, so I'm seeing if they're on my other computer. So I don't know if you want to move on or wait for me, or if other people want to speak about that.
We can come back once you find your notes. Just let us
Thank you.
know. Just put your hand up. Joe, tell us about public access.
All right, thank you so much to the board for having me today. I'm Joseph Davis, the creative director.
Tim, I'm sorry, you missed the public hearing for.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah,
Say.
a whole. Yes, I move that we open the public hearing regarding the amendment to the affordable housing law.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone want to make a comment on changing the qualifications for creating more points for volunteer firefighters? Hearing that, I'm pretty comfortable just going ahead and closing this public hearing. I move that we close it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And do we want to bump this down onto our agenda for further discussion with the intention of moving it ahead this evening?
Yeah, is that, oh, sorry, I didn't think of that sooner. Yep, I second that, you do that.
I'm gonna put it at the very last item tonight.
Cool,
It is in final law format.
yeah.
Perfect.
And I feel like we've had like a lot of great input prior to like the public hearings, yeah.
Floor is yours, Jim.
All right, thank you so much. So, we're coming after many years of working on this with 3 different employees from Spectrum. And, the village attorney's notes for the franchise agreement between Spectrum and the village of New Paltz, and the identical for the town of New Paltz. So this would be the first franchise agreement in 30 years, for the village and Spectrum, which used to be Time Warner. And they're giving us a lot of everything that we asked for, including the $15,000 to, $5,000 for 3 non-for-profits over the course of the franchise agreement. And the big thing is that they're gonna finally upgrade us to HD. So the guy that we're working with from Spectrum, Brendan Cahill, has been a huge help and is willing to upgrade us to HD. And acknowledge all of the changes of the village attorney in terms of tree trimming. And then also the channel, if they ever were to change us from channel 23, they included that they would give us $2,500 to the village and $2,500 to the town for rebranding purposes. So I'm here to say we're really at a good place. And then we actually successfully have a public hearing scheduled for October 23rd in the town. And I'm coming to see if we can move forward, and if we're all in agreement here, do so with the village coming up this fall.
Cool. Thanks for all of your work on this.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it's been a long journey, but I'm glad we're doing it the right way, and I thank you guys for helping us with the negotiations and seeing exactly what's the best we could get for this, and make sure it's a franchise that we're all really happy with. And I think we'll see a strong, hopefully, showing for the public hearing from my friends in the SUNY New Paltz digital media program, where I'm a graduate of, who will be excited to see their work hit the airwaves. And the community at large for all different sort of things. I'm a volunteer for you guys for any sort of videos and shows that we can make going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just so grateful that you're, volunteering in this capacity, because just having seen certain things coalesce since you've come on board, that I had hoped to see like for so long, just because of your connections with the university and whatnot, and different art groups and just thank you so much. And I think a lot of the what ifs were kind of addressed in this like version of the agreement, so that's cool too. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
So what was the reasoning, and we talked about this a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I didn't notice a senior credit, is that still in place or has that been?
yes. Part of the work we did through working with the village board was kind of figuring out what would be a fair replacement for the sort of outdated and unique to New Paltz program. And that was where they came up with that $15,000 for 3 non-for-profits. So we discovered it was like a handful of people were getting 1 free month of cable if they were in good standing. And, in exchange for that, they're giving us, $15,000 for a place like Family of New Paltz, which you mentioned, and other non-for-profits. So it'll boost the community that way. And they're gonna be, repairing our public access station in a time where, media that is untouched or unbought is more important than ever. So I think that they are, that will be coming to a close, and that's part of why we went through all these negotiations to see what would be a good equivalent to that small benefit for about 12 people and in exchange for a huge benefit for the entire community.
So I think we spoke about this previously, and I'm curious where we landed. I don't know if you got into the weeds on this more recently, but the idea of like, if we're making a contribution to nonprofits, like that selection process needs to be done a certain way, like it'd be inappropriate for us as elected officials to identify which nonprofits.
Yes, yeah, that's been addressed in the side letter. So all of that is separate from the franchise agreement. So the side letter is showing that that would be a negotiation between the governing boards and Spectrum to decide those three. And I think it's in that red line version that it says, you know, the town and the Spectrum will work to identify the non-for-profits, but mostly, you know, it will be these kinds of places that we're used to already supporting,
For
like,
sure, but I think that's the issue is that like elected officials should not be determining which nonprofits receive contributions.
yeah, we don't have the final say, but it says the town will work with Charter Communications to identify these townwide non-for-profit organizations that benefit the community. So we will make the recommendation of that, but Charter ultimately will decide.
Will there be an application process for these not-for-profits?
Yeah, I think that's the point, is that we need something that,
Yeah.
and we can't be
The deciding factor of it. Yeah, I think ultimately Charter will take our recommendations and any non-for-profit will be allowed to, say, hey, we would love to be in the consideration for that. And this is something that the side letter is separate from the franchise agreement. So it seems like what we have here is, you know, the corporation of Spectrum, you know, ultimately will be in decision of who they give this to.
okay, good.
But it will be if you have anyone that you think would be, you know, like.
No, but that's what we don't.
We don't wanna, yeah, we don't want it to be on the town or the village. You just want Spectrum to decide. Yeah,
Yeah, we just can't be touching the nonprofit stuff.
that sounds great. I think the way.
Your boundaries.
Yeah.
That's a great boundary to illustrate and say Spectrum, you know, Charter, you decide who that goes to. And, you know, I believe that is totally in line. And that part of the document is, we can easily address that. That's
Yeah,
not.
that's not hard. I just want to make sure we do it right.
Yeah, I think that sounds totally fair. Let them decide and let the government stay out of that part.
Yeah.
Sounds good?
Necessary.
Yeah, sounds like a necessary thing, and you know, if with your approval, we could move to like an agreement and a public hearing schedule. And I believe, you know, get this thing moving. Yeah,
Yes.
but I'm here to answer any other questions you have, and you know, very thankful that we're finally, coming down the home stretch with this. It feels good.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount.
Thanks for working on it, Joe.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll circle back with us.
Yeah, so all I need from you guys is to agree to put it into a public hearing at a future
Oh,
meeting.
got it. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
when is the ideal time?
and even your next meeting, or doesn't it take a certain amount of
Notice.
Yeah.
We have.
a month?
Essentially, you could do it on the 8th, it would have to be advertised in the
Yeah,
October 1st newspaper.
how about, and then, so it's the first, and what about the 22nd? So it's the same week as the town.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do 22nd for us, and I think 23rd is the town public hearing.
Okay, I moved Joe's suggestion in terms of the date. Someone want to second it? All in favor?
Ah,
Done.
Thank you so much.
And,
Absolutely. I'll see you and hopefully the community on the 22nd.
See you later.
all right, have a good night.
Joe, can you email the language for that public hearing, so we have the right language?
Yes, I'll get that public hearing email to you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is, I put together a memo about, creating a, what?
Kitty is,
Oh, okay.
has her hand raised.
Kitty, would you like to make a public comment now?
Yes, thank you. And regarding the public access, when we had talked about it the first round, we had identified the library, family, and rescue squad as potential recipients because these are well-known and respected community nonprofits. But obviously,
just
that's a
explained
decision
why we
for all
shouldn't
of
do
us to
that.
make in the future. So we just want to make sure that these were community nonprofits that people know and engage with. But it's
But
fine
Kitty,
to
we just
postpone the
explained why we
discussion
should have
about
no
who's
say
going
in
to do
it.
that in the future. Then, we'll have that discussion. So I'm also.
Kitty, did you hear what I said?
No, I was speaking. Were you talking while I was
Okay.
speaking?
I was simply clarifying that we just spoke about this and
Yes, I
explaining
heard
why
that.
it's important that we not have a say in it.
Well,
Public officials should not choose.
I think that might be a hasty decision, but it's yours to make.
It's the law.
It's the law.
It's just public
Okay,
officers law. But anyway,
let's
public
skip over
comments,
this.
yeah.
Let's hear, your public comment.
Okay, I am opposed to the creation of a village manager. My main concern is that you are not requiring the village manager to reside in the village or the town. The village manager is an appointed, not an elected position, and this person will not be accountable to the public and will not feel the economic or cultural impacts of their policies. Please do not create the position of village manager. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
I just have do you recommend that we require Blue Terwilliger, our DPW superintendent, and Nancy Bronca, our treasurer, to move to New Paltz?
They don't make policy. And I just, I think Stana earlier today, or maybe it was Alex, was recommending that we look at the village of Ellenville as a model of village managers. And so there's, they had a pretty rocky time and they had to bring back the former mayor to clear up almost $1 million worth of budgetary what did they, I think Elliot called it voodoo economics or something. So it just feels like for a person who is going to be making policy and overseeing who gets hired, should be a person who lives within the community.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else online interested in making a public comment, since we allowed Kitty to make this public comment now? Anybody else? No? Okay, then let's jump into the proposed sales tax resolution idea. So the way sales tax is currently distributed in Ulster County, there's we all know there's an 8% sales tax rate, 4% goes to the state, the other 4% is considered the local share. The way it's worked historically is that 11.5% of the 4% goes to the city of Kingston. More recently, approximately 84.5% goes to the county, and then there are 23 village and towns, 20 towns, 3 villages that share the remaining approximately 4%. What's challenging about that for communities like ours and others for the entire town of New Paltz is that this sharing arrangement is determined based on assessed value and it overlooks population. I believe a strong case can be made that sharing sales tax based on a community's population would be more equitable than sharing sales tax based on assessed value. And I think that's especially the case in a community like New Paltz, where we host the state university. The total assessed value for just the village alone is like $320-something million. And the estimated market value for the SUNY property is north of $500 million. And we all know that we also have significant amounts of protected open space that is all tax exempt. So none of that is considered when you're looking at the assessed value for our community. So I think there's a solid case and argument to be made if we want to be a county that is as equitable as possible, that sales tax be distributed based on how many individuals live in your community. In my memo, I also put in another wrinkle because I wouldn't want a situation where, let's say, a community had a teeny tiny population. So then they would be getting a whole lot less if there was a pivot from assessed value to population. So some sort of consideration or stipulation that created a minimum or a floor based on what a community is currently getting. And then I would propose that minimum or floor come out of the county share if that were 84.5%. So that's the concept. So I just wanted to take everyone's temperature on whether it made sense to, put together a position statement or a resolution formally asking the county legislator and the city of Kingston to make make this change to how sales tax is currently distributed, and making the argument that this would be the more equitable way to do it. And the other wrinkle with all of this is that it's really interesting that only the county and the city of Kingston are involved in the negotiation. Per New York State law, villages and towns are not involved in the negotiations in terms of how sales tax is shared.
Right.
Has this been approached at all previously in any way, form or fashion in the county?
Well, I talk about it all the time.
No, I mean,
We've passed the resolution
Well,
every.
no, I'm talking about other communities who have put this forward.
Well, there are other communities that have, like Saugerties has the largest population of any town. I don't know that they've formally
That's
asked,
what I'm
but this has been looked at, a few different angles.
Just curious about the history outside of our.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool to team up with the other villages, in like seeing if they'll pass, sister resolutions. That would be, I think, really helpful for sure. And it's interesting when you actually think of the history that went into why the sales tax agreement is set up the way it is. It was a completely different environment at that time, the heart and soul and spirit behind it was, looking at like a time of like real economic like trouble, and just Kingston was in like trouble, and that's like kind of how it had started, or like that's how it had been explained to me, that it was intended to be like a justice thing, but things are different now, yeah.
I've also, heard about, communities that might have, properties with higher assessed values. And they, believe that their county tax bill, their county property tax bill is larger than communities, with a smaller assessed value. So, that's just like another wrinkle to be aware of.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of aligns with, it's like if you have a property that's worth more, that's, you're paying taxes based on the value of your property. Whereas like if we're gonna look at, how do we more equitably share sales tax, I still think that population is a more accurate and appropriate measure.
I agree. I have always agreed with this. I think this is, to me, it makes a lot of sense. And I really love Alex's idea of trying to get other communities interested in it and getting, their versions. And so I fully move forward.
Does someone wanna, volunteer to write a resolution using the memo?
I'll work on it. I'll help with you. Cool.
Okay, and then we'll put that on the next agenda, the second Wednesday in October.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. So the next is a response to the town board vote against New Paltz Apartments annexation. So we have a long 2-page response. This basically just speaks to the fact that in early September, the village board adopted a resolution in support of the annexation, and then in a special meeting right before the deadline, the town board voted unanimously against annexation, derailing the proposed New Paltz Apartments project. And that's a project that would include 200 units, 600 beds with 30 affordable housing units, which is a function of being 15% of all of the units, and that is required because of the village's affordable housing law. And then in this note, there is like a detailed outline kind of addressing what felt like points made by the town board that felt like they were conflicting each other. Even the same person would say something like they believed in the importance of the university, but then they felt that the project would not add in a truly meaningful way to add housing to address the town or the region's housing crisis. And there were concerns about the tax revenue not being significant enough. But then there was speculation that the project could be purchased by the university and then there would be no tax revenue. And I thought what was kind of an overall theme was how the town board seemed to overlook or ignore the fact that if the property or project is marketed to university students, that university students are town residents. They're not interlopers. It just felt like a bunch of very curious, well, let's see what we can object to try to vote this thing down. And then there were some technical issues with their vote, and that the village planning board was the lead agency and followed the seeker process for 4 years. The town board was a named involved agency and did not participate in any meaningful or productive way during the seeker process. So creating a finding statement of their own outside of the seekers process is just not an appropriate response or a way to defend voting down an annexation. And it felt like a lot of the discussion seemed to confuse the town and village and almost describe the town and village as competing municipalities, like New Paltz is competing with Gardner or competing with Kingston, and any property that is in the village is in the town. Any resident, whether they're a college student, a K through 12 family, a senior citizen, and they live in the village, they're a town resident. The tax bill, your property tax bill is largely a function of contributing to the town's A fund. That's a town-wide A fund. I felt like this argument that the project, should be objected to for this reason or that reason, and it should just be in the town. It already is in the town. The proposal is to build it in the town. The village is part of the town. And this is a 2-page document. Hopefully, other folks will take a closer look about what is written here. But another I think troubling argument that I don't think makes a whole lot of sense is this objection to a trail that would provide for connectivity between the housing project and the university campus. So when the project was first proposed, Supervisor Betez and I, it was like our first response was like, well, this only makes sense if individuals living there could bike or walk to the university. Why would we want a project that's siloed, which requires people to do more driving as opposed to making walking and cycling like real alternatives? And I also scratch my head at this objection because, this village spent $650,000 to purchase land in the Millbrook Preserve. We secured a grant that cost us nearly $400,000 to build a bridge and trails in the Millbrook Preserve. We leased property to OSI to host the River to Ridge Trail. We own and work closely with the Walking Valley Land Trust to make sure that we have a functioning rail trail. There are hundreds of miles of carriage trails in the Mohonk Preserve and Minnewaska State Park. This objection to trails, it just feels like, well, what else could we describe as a potential issue? It does not make sense. And I'm worried that this feels like it was really a charade to create a campaign issue for Republican candidates on the town board. And I don't think if we're trying to, be a community that's looking out for individuals, be a community that's pro-housing, be a community that's smart street designs, that any sort of political posturing or maneuvering has no place whatsoever. And the developer has offered to provide us with reimbursement and any expenses associated with pursuing an appeal to address the town's action. And I move that we go ahead and green light an official objection to the town board's denial of the New Paltz Apartments annexation petition.
Second.
Further discussion?
I just wanted to say one more thing about the trail point, because when I watched that meeting, I immediately went into a panic, like, if we start just at our two different board tables, finding flaws and problems with trails and connectivity, that totally turns every DRI application we've worked on, like, for the past 11 years on its head.
Yeah.
Because that's like, if anything, like the number one thing we have going for us, that we've been able to make significant improvements on, in the past 11 years at least, is being like a real leader in connectivity for humans to get from place to place, not just by driving cars. So that was my biggest problem when watching that meeting. And so thanks for highlighting that as well.
Yeah, it's a safety measure as well as being better for our planet. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I certainly have issues with this project. I don't like some of what they're doing, but the things that I don't like aren't under our purview by state law. We cannot tell them how to market it. We can't. And again, I will say that, 30 units of affordable housing, yeah, I'm in. Okay, the fact of the matter is that we currently have 7 units, am I correct? Of affordable housing?
Yes.
I want 30 more. I want 30 individuals and or families to have places to live as quickly as possible.
Any other comments from the board?
Yes, the objections seem antithetical to what we are doing for our community.
Yeah.
So, I found it very surprising that they unanimously voted to oppose it. I'm also, bothered by the 4 years of review that took place here at this table. All the meetings have been, properly noticed, ample opportunity to come in and state your objections. And to come in and, I believe the 11th hour, and say, no, this shouldn't happen. And there's so much more that needs to happen with this project.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to go before the planning board, and all these details have to be examined, and whether. So the objections that aren't really grounded in some real fact.
Right.
So.
And when you say planning board, you mean the county planning board?
No, the
Or,
village planning board still has to perform.
Oh,
assessment.
right, that's right, we didn't see that.
This is, right, so there are a lot of steps to take
Yeah.
place, there's lots of opportunity to work on this project to fit the community. This is it's much larger scale, but very similar in some ways to what Zero Place became. And with community input, a better building was built, and a better project could be created on that site, so. And I remember meeting at that site, many years ago with, the developer, Supervisor Cortez and Mayor Rogers, and yeah, I certainly had some reservations about it, but given what's transpired over the many years in terms of the need for housing in this community particularly, this may not answer everything, but certainly is an approach to move it forward.
And I would highlight too that the project developers have repeatedly said that they're not pursuing a pilot.
In public meetings, over and
Yeah.
So there would be significant revenue being paid to the various taxing authorities, including school district, town, village, county.
So what happens with this statement? What's the plan?
The plan is to, so we have an agreement with the developer that they would reimburse the town for any expenses associated with litigation. The,
They would reimburse the village, you said they would reimburse the town.
sorry, reimburse for village. So we have a draft of that written agreement, so.
Just trying to figure out timing.
Yeah, I mean, part of the issue and why this is on this evening's agenda is because there's a window in terms of when the appeal can happen. So I'd like to move that we, agree to that agreement with the developer, pending final review by our attorney. Any further discussion?
That was a discussion, but yeah.
Yeah. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, next item is 66 Church Street. This was on our last agenda, so there's a very small triangle shaped parcel in between 66 Church Street and Henry W. So under New York State Village Law, section 1-1012, the village can vote to enter into a contract to sell property. So, you know, one of the things that our attorney advised us on was to get a valuation opinion from a local realtor, as well as a memo from our DPW superintendent that, you know, this weird triangle is of no use. The property is currently assessed at $800. The offer is to provide $1,000, probably, which will just cover laboring the deal. And then the village would be able to retain easement rights as needed. And then it's no longer a maintenance responsibility for the municipality. So I move that we go ahead and agree to this sale.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is Hasbrook Park basketball and pickleball courts. So that project's moving along nicely. I wonder if the rain's gonna slow us down a little bit. I was over there today. So the fencing is all up, the basketball hoops are up, the fencing in between the pickleball courts is up. And you know, the acrylic paint has to go down. So I imagine that's probably not gonna go down while it's raining.
Yeah.
But we should probably anticipate a ribbon cutting, hopefully next week. We did get a complaint when we did the fire station solar panel update, because there were some young people there, Yvonne, who really spearheaded our climate smart community efforts. I believe it was her grandchildren were at the event, and they were mad that we didn't actually have a ribbon and scissors. So I think we should probably reach out to Yvonne and see if their grandkids can come to the ball court ribbon cutting,
Yeah.
to make it up to them.
Ribbon cutting on top of that would be difficult.
Yeah. And while I'm talking about Yvonne, I wanted to shout out the entire Climate Smart team, because they were able to make sure that New Paltz, both village and town, each received the bronze designation from the DEC program, the NYSERDA program. And it's a fairly heavy lift.
Yeah.
You know, the top award is silver, not gold. Everyone scratches their head why it's only silver. But maybe we can work towards a silver designation in the future. But thanks, Climate Smart team, for making sure that
Thanks for saying that. I meant to say it in our announcements, but yeah, I think we have one of the most active, climate smart task forces in the county too. We now show up to things other towns need help with, and the county fair and all that, so thanks so much to our volunteers.
Okay, so the next item on this business agenda is a discussion about the village law manager position. So we started speaking about this a little bit at our last meeting. So the idea and the reason that we have put this on as a law for the village to adopt, is it provides optionality for the village as we're, working towards the possibility of a town board and a village board actually collaborating. A town board and a village board actually working together on a joint consolidation plan. So it just provides some optionality where you could have a person who is employed by the village to handle a bunch of the administrative tasks. There are currently 2 individuals running for village board seats in November. They're running unopposed. I think what's been really tough and disheartening about our community is how there are so many uncontested races. Both of the individuals who are running are doing it because they feel obligated to. They don't want to, spend as much time as probably a trustee or a mayor would need to. But they feel obligated to serve and contribute. And this law is simply a placeholder that provides some optionality if that future village board would like to get someone to handle some of the administrative tasks. Michael Zeller was here talking about how many of the tasks listed in the proposed law were existing or new. It's a placeholder. It's a law that was written using village manager description from Ellenville as well as from Westchester. So the objective was to speak to a bunch of categories and responsibilities that a village manager could be responsible for. I'm also a big proponent of casting a wider net to get, potentially stronger candidates.
Yes.
Giving the village board the option, if they were interviewing someone, not being handcuffed to, looking, just at, nearby neighbors, especially considering the fact that, we can barely get people to do a variety of things. It's like we post job postings, doing records management. For years, we've tried to, get staff by saying, we're gonna pay you more, looking out into the public, can we get people to do some of these tasks? And it's not good, it's like, I make $65,000 a year, which is significantly below the area median income for the town of New Paltz Census Tract. Mike Baden, who is our director of planning and zoning, makes $80,000 or just over $80,000. These are figures that are significantly lower than what plenty of other households are earning to survive in this community. So if people think that elected officials shouldn't be paid and that, staff shouldn't be paid, you're living in a dreamland. I mean, the amount of time that I spend doing this work is a lot more than I ever spent when I had a job in the private sector and made more money. So,
Yeah, the amount of times I go on my night runs and see the light upstairs, I'm like, oh my God, go to bed, Tim.
so, again, this, just in terms of the salary piece too, like to answer Michael's question from earlier, there is no number. But there definitely is a number in that, the objective is not to spend, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars that this community doesn't have.
Right.
We have to balance budgets. We have to be mindful of tax rates. And we've been lucky that we have, staff that believe in this. We are lucky that we have elected officials that, work on behalf of this broader community. So it's a moving target. I've been doing this work since 2012 as a town planning board member, as a school board member, as a village mayor. It's like the only thing I'm interested in is making prudent financial decisions on behalf of this community. The idea or the suggestion that we're writing all that is going to, you know, harm this community is really troubling.
Yeah.
It's really troubling. I mean, I've never, you know, it's like my track record is pretty crystal clear that, you know, being able to say that we're making thoughtful decisions on behalf of taxpayers is, you know, what gets me out of bed in the morning. I stand by the idea that, you know, Nancy Bronco is a super strong treasurer, Blue Villager is a super strong superintendent, and they 100% are involved in development of policy. I wouldn't do anything that involves DPW and a policy decision without taking Blue's temperature and asking his opinion. I wouldn't do anything in this village without getting feedback from Nancy Bronco. So, you know, they don't live here. They don't live in New Paltz. They live in Ulster County, and they understand this community. You know, and you can just look at the other area communities. I meet people who work in different municipalities all the time who don't live in their community. I think it's a very archaic, narrow way of looking at things. And, you know, I would, you know, again, we're trying to provide options. We're trying to figure out this puzzle. How do we make this community make more sense?
Right.
Because what we have now with these two boards and these two governments does not make sense. And it is harmful and expensive and inefficient. And I can give you example after example after example. And we will do that. And we've begun doing that by, you know, composing a dissolution study. The dissolution study is the foundation for a consolidation agreement.
Yep.
It is not because you wrote a dissolution study, you're therefore pursuing dissolution. It's the foundation. It's the overlapping of the two municipalities. And then you continue to look at details and you augment it with details so that it can become a consolidation agreement for the entire community to vote on.
Right.
And all of these conversations happen in public. All of these conversations err on the side of asking the community for input. Suggesting otherwise is just, it's just a fake narrative used to create fear and create chaos. And, you know, what happens on social media is not representative of what we do here every single day. And if anyone would like to call me at any time, my phone number is 917-843-4119. Call me, ask me to meet for coffee, ask me to explain anything, suggesting otherwise, suggesting that anything nefarious is happening, suggesting that anything where we're like padding developers' intentions so that they can secure tax abatements is dishonest misinformation, and it's infuriating.
Absolutely.
And troubling, and you know, run a campaign on your strengths.
Yeah.
You want to, you know, run for office and just disparage and defame your neighbors, you can do that too. That's your First Amendment right. Go ahead.
I appreciate this very much, and did you want to go first before me? Oh, either way is fine.
Yeah, well, I just wanted, optionality. I didn't know that was a word until now, but I wanted to emphasize that, like, this is a really cool mechanism that's existed in New York State, like municipal code, for municipalities to establish this role, and it doesn't mean it's a position that's always filled, blah, blah, blah. And so in a lot of the local examples, of other municipalities that have a municipal manager, you know, alongside like basically what we are proposing here, they haven't always had that position filled necessarily. You know, and so one of the public comments earlier, from Kitty brought up like Ellenville, like they've had the municipal manager position since 1985. They didn't have it filled all those years, I think Walden is another example, but I forget their year of passing it. Like so the option part, I think, is really important to highlight. And I know we've talked about this a lot, Tim, over the like past 11 years. Like, this is not like some sort of like the timing. I know when some of the public comments came up, the timing is like, now's the time to just get our ducks in a row, that aren't in a row. And this is one duck that hasn't been lined up yet, in my opinion. So, I think just the emphasis on like this creating option, for the village board is really important, to highlight.
Okay, should I say the order? Or you don't?
I think I'm good for now.
Okay, so a couple things. One is we cannot find enough people to run for office. Please. If you think you can do this, please run for office. We need more people to run for office. We want more people to run for office. We want every election to be contested. We want as much participation by our community as possible. So please run for office, talk to your friends about them running for office. Let's all get involved. If you want to be involved, rather than sit at home and talk about it online, let's really discuss running for office, and feel free to reach out to me as well. And I'll tell you the truth of what kind of time we spend and effort we spend. The people who work in the village of New Paltz, whether they live in the village or the town, we are incredibly fortunate to have incredibly qualified people who work collaboratively. Blue works so hard to make sure that his staff knows how to do everything in case anything happens to him and when he's ready to retire. That other people can do his job. That's how you take care of a community. And I have never seen more dedicated, wonderful individuals who work so beautifully, handle all kinds of stuff that is both wonderful and not so wonderful. So how do we get the most qualified people without paying them?
We don't pay them.
Exactly. Only people who have the privilege, who can afford to run for office and who can afford to work for $65,000 a year. Most people cannot afford to do that. I would like more people of color and more people from diverse backgrounds of every kind imaginable, especially socioeconomic. I would like more people to be able to run for office, but they cannot if they cannot pay rent and buy food and take care of their children. So asking people to run for office and not get paid means we will literally only get the same couple dozen people who can afford to run for office. That is not okay with me. That is not democracy. As far as I'm concerned, from everything that I have done for years working in myriad different ways in community with different people, in this community and others, everything has shown me that people need to be compensated for their labor. If we believe in Labor Day, if we believe in workers, then we have to treat them like we believe in them. And if we really want democracy, we have to have publicly funded elections. I will not say more on that because I could go off on that topic forever and a day. So back to this, only privileged people can afford to do these jobs. That is not okay, period. So if anybody wants to run for office, I want to find ways for them to run for office. I want to find ways to help them to get the training they need to be qualified to do these jobs. That's what we need to do. We need to make sure everybody who wants to serve can get the training they need and run for office and serve in a way that is dignified to them as human beings.
Anything else from the board?
In principle, I'm very interested in this and having a discussion, and I think this is something that's a long time coming. I'm just curious what our next sort of steps would be I'm sure the public would like to know that. So could you perhaps,
Steps will be in terms of the law, right? So
let's move
the
it.
public hearing remains open.
Okay,
I think the objection or the objective will be to, move this law so that it is an option on our books.
Right.
And as the new village board or even, us, like towards the end of the year, we can weigh options. I think, a lot remains to be seen with the election in November. We have this dissolution study. The objective will be to, take the study, go out into the community and augment it with other details, which, may or may not include using a village manager as an interim step. Because even if there's a referendum in 2026, the village will remain a village for a certain amount of time. So there's no light switches that are turned on and off.
Right.
So again, this is about providing options so that we can keep the lights on, so that we can continue to pay bills and provide services as a local government.
Right.
So there's no absolute plan in terms of where we're going. I think if it's determined that the community and the elected officials on the town board and village board might suggest, it would be a village board decision that they want to hire someone, then they would post a job listing and then people would apply.
And I guess to add to that and to answer some of the questions that were brought up in public comment, and that's when if like the village board, like if we pass this law and we want to look at having this as a position, that's when things like salary and timeline and stuff would get discussed in light of budget and all of that.
And that's when things like,
It doesn't
well,
get addressed in the
you're not
law.
gonna take, like, right now, I would describe myself as a municipal manager.
Yeah,
I don't think a mayor would continue to earn this $65,000 a year salary that I earn and then have a municipal manager. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
No one has proposed that
Yeah.
except Facebook.
yeah, exactly. And like, in my head, one reason I like really support this is, like we had for years, like when Jason was mayor, not saying like anyone should get paid less, but like the ability to be a mayor and like have a life and, all of that would be so much better. And make it not a full times full, like it's a full-time square job, like make it less of that, like this would create that ability, I think. And like math wise, my mind was blown honestly with some of the Facebook stuff. I'm like, where did this even come from? Because like that just doesn't add up, but because like math wise, like we'd have to make it make sense, like, but this would open up the ability to have somebody in the mayoral
Yeah,
position.
you're gonna
who
have
has a
to
life.
make it sense, because you're gonna be on the village board next year.
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm like already wrapping my head around it, like.
Will be gone.
I might still be on the village board too.
Yeah.
That would be
Bill and I.
perfectly okay with me.
Tim, would you just allow me to say one more position that I think was not brought up? This is a civil service position, which is a competitive position,
Yeah,
which means Ulster County either has an existing list, which I do not know if they do or don't. I'm guessing they probably don't, given there's only one community in Ulster County who has this position. But they would have to offer a test. The person would be hired provisionally. They would have to score in the top 3 scores on the test. So in some ways, while the board can pick, it is a competitive civil service position, and I think that's important.
Yes.
excellent.
I wanted to bring that up, and I'm so glad that you did, because I totally forgot, because it was in my notes, but yeah, that's like a really big point. This is like not, this is literally us, like, passing law to opt into a law that the state provides that could offer like real support to get things done and kind of open up all the electeds ability to not be in a full-time position for reasons.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so this, the village manager proposed law public hearing remains open and to be discussed again at our next meeting. Next item is the senior affordable housing for Harmony Hall. So that's the project that's across the street from the student union building. It's a 100% affordable housing building for seniors. So I know that the developer reached out to the regulators who administer the program from the state. He was hoping to get an answer sooner, but he was hoping to have as many local individuals placed in these units. And the response he got back was, I think there are 8 units that have been set aside for 30 to, no, I'm sorry, for seniors who are 62 or over that make $25,000 a year or less. But, and then they should be contacting Andrea Babcock. And we're gonna circulate details, so Andrea Babcock works for the developer. And then we're also working with our Village Affordable Housing board members, because the village has maintained a list of individuals who could qualify for affordable units. So if there are some individuals who are 62 and over and of the right income bracket, those names could be sent over and take those local spots. And then there are 2 spots related to mobility impairments. And we're gonna get some more details that we can share out, but we just wanted to communicate publicly that if there are individuals who think that they might qualify, we can point them in the right direction. And then our village affordable housing board is also looking at our existing list. I also spoke with someone who's a manager of a property of affordable units here in New Paltz. And she said that she has a list of that's 3 or 4 years long. With people who would probably buy. So we're trying to make all the connections and get as many people on that list so that the Harmony Hall folks can have a lottery and so I think what's exciting about it is that these units are available ASAP.
Yeah. I'm so proud of all of them.
Have they, I drove by the other day, is it, those documents, so it's back on.
I don't know the answer to that. We can check with the building department.
Cool, thanks.
And then I just put this village revolving loan fund. So years ago, we were able to secure some money from HUD, and this is economic development money. A couple of different times, this revolving loan fund has been used.
Who's skipping?
Oh, I'm gonna go back to that.
Okay.
Sorry. So the revolving loan fund has been used for business and make investments in capital projects that they would need to, fortify or grow their businesses. And it's basically been a very underutilized tool. And it's basically money that's just sitting here at the village that has to be used for economic development purposes. So I was approached by a local entrepreneur who works in this space about the idea of could we potentially contract with her to market this fund and then provide some administration services in addition to qualifying businesses? Because I think what's curious about it, and we've been in this situation before where we've had a couple of applicants during our time. And in all honesty, I feel like we're unqualified to really evaluate a business's creditworthiness. So I like the idea a great deal of professionalizing it and using a vendor who can actually use this money. And the idea is to support economic development, and what we're doing now is not that. So it's something that we're trying to explore. So I just wanted that on this agenda. So then the county IDA and communications about pilots for housing. So I had a conversation with the county's director of planning recently, and he was, because this is something that we've been very outspoken about for a very long time, about how the original intention of IDAs was job creation and historically, you've not used IDAs to provide tax abatements for housing projects. But our Ulster County IDA has gone ahead and changed their review process so that they can consider providing pilots for housing. And I was speaking with the director of planning, and he was describing it to me in that his recommendation to officials at the county, which were then shared with the county IDA, is that it should only be used if it's augmenting or enhancing a local statute. So in New Paltz, we're unique in that we actually have an affordable housing law, so we require 15% of the units when there are 20 or more units to be affordable. So it would make some sense potentially for a developer to receive an abatement if they're going above and beyond what's required by our local statute. So I think what's curious about the application that we've seen from the developers at 151 North Chestnut, in addition to the but-for provision that we've asked the county, and I attended the meeting, Sana and Bill were also in attendance with me. But you know, it's a joint resolution, you know, because we're really trying to, again, be like solution oriented and to like empower the IBA to make the right decisions. So, you know, definitely consider not doing a pilot for real reasons, like a but-for provision, because what an IBA is not going to do is they're not going to reject pilot applications just because people are aggressive with that. You have to provide explanations and provide them with rationale. So this is an additional level of rationale that I would love to get some clarity on. If that was the recommendation, why or how could the county IDA even extend a pilot if you're not doing, you know, because that's like our response too, is like, well, if there's some sort of like offsetting feature that supports the taxing authorities, who would be, you know, not receiving their full tax payment, then that's something to consider. But if that's not on the table, there's not other community-wide benefits on the table, like why in the world would the county IDA consider extending tax abatements? So that is just, you know, something that I would like to really understand about a little bit more. Because I, you know, and I've heard this argument for years, because I've actually gone to several county IDA presentations. And Stan has been to plenty, I'm sure of everyone at this table has been to their fair share. But these are not new topics. And it's just, again, it's like, this is real work that we've been consistently doing. This suggestion that our village board has like supported pilots is just like patently false, incredibly offensive. And it's just like posturing and fear mongering and it's really unfortunate. But again, enjoy your free speech, say untrue things.
So I guess to be continued on that point, thanks for doing that fact finding.
Yeah, we'll see. And then, but also I think this is an interesting piece because it in some ways I like the idea of connecting it to the possibility of a developer's agreement with the 151 North Chestnut folks. So we've not heard anything from recently about the idea of an offset to support the taxing authorities. If they, you know, believe that their pilot application is going to be successful with the IDA. So one of the things that they need to take the next step regarding site plan review with our planning board is this easement agreement. So what we've done is we have an easement agreement that we used with Zero Place, again, another apartment complex that did not pursue a pilot. And they're very proud of that fact, and we've spoken about it numerous times in public. That property provides the maintenance along the rail trail. And in exchange for providing that maintenance, they then have an easement to go from the property onto the rail trail. So these are just kind of like nuts and bolts agreements that make a whole lot of sense that we would want to see. But also like we need a partner to work with us collaboratively. So, you know, I don't want to spend time working towards that when this pilot question is, you know, still up in the air. So just wanted to share that with the board as an update, that easement agreement is something that their handlers are interested in. But I'm, you know, I'd rather get clarity on other things before we go ahead and continue those conversations.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay, and then the speed study update, I think we discussed it a little bit during the public hearing, so we have the draft resolution, we already have the law, and then we have the speed study itself. So I'm gonna encourage my colleagues as well as the community to take a closer look, and then hopefully we can move forward at the next
I
meeting.
already read the study, so I think it's very well done and great.
Any initial feedback you wanted to share?
It seems very straightforward to me, and they are basically giving us the backup that we need for the 25-mile per hour.
Good. On this business agenda, we also have a stipend I would like our village board to consider to extend to the Shade Tree Commission arborist. So Dwight Bain has been in that role for several years as a volunteer. You know, a lot of our different boards, like planning board, for instance, they might use an engineer or an attorney. You know, these are professional consultants. Dwight Bain historically has been the professional consultant as a volunteer. So, you know, I thought it did make sense, like if we're trying to recognize volunteers' work with our $25 per meeting that you attend, let's also, you know, share some recognition monetarily towards our arbor. So I'm gonna propose, and you know, even we were I proposed to him the idea of $1,000 per year, and he felt more comfortable if it was you know, more incremental, because he's like, I don't know how long he's like, I'm in good health, but how long can I keep doing this? So I said, well, why don't we just do like $500, you know, after you've completed 6 months, and so that's, I think, what we should consider as far as the stipend for an arborist, and hopefully Dwight will continue to serve the shade tree, because the members as well as our clerk have said he's been a tremendous help, you know. It's not just like trees are beautiful, but it's like they also have other functions, and, you know, he's definitely helped the shade tree, you know, make informed decisions. So someone want to second the motion? All in favor? I move that we apply for round 9 of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative grant. All in favor? I move that we agree to the notice of award for Contact Construction, and then also the contract between Contact and the village pending attorney finalization.
Second.
All in favor? Who wants to discuss stillbirth awareness, prevention, and resolution?
Yeah, so, just wanted to like thank my friend, and Uvelka, who has been a tenant here for 33 years. I'm like, oh my God, so that means we've been friends for 22, 23 years, who has, is a published author and basically an expert who spearheaded the first ever piece of national legislation regarding stillbirths. And she was like, how do I get resolutions passed? I was like, let's work on one. So, I'd like to read this all. So whereas stillbirth is a devastating public health issue that claims the lives of thousands of babies in the United States every year, leaving families and communities in grief. And whereas more than 21,000 pregnancies in the US end in stillbirth every year. Whereas the lack of access to maternal health care services has exacerbated the crisis. Whereas racial disparities persist in birth outcomes with Black, American Indian, and Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian, and other Pacific Islander and Hispanic families at the greatest risk of losing a baby to stillbirth. And whereas according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the annual number of stillbirths far exceeds the number of deaths from the top 5 leading causes of death among children under 15 years of age combined, including unintentional injuries, congenital anomalies, preterm birth, homicide, and some infant death syndrome. And whereas stillbirths are devastating and have a profound and lifelong impact on the families who endure them. And whereas losing a baby to stillbirth is linked to an increased risk of maternal morbidity and mortality. And whereas with increased awareness and better data collection, the US will be able to better understand why stillbirths in the United States are happening at a really alarming rate and identify what can be done to combat this crisis. And whereas proven stillbirth prevention efforts have the power to save thousands of babies every year, and innovations in stillbirth prevention could save thousands of additional families nationwide every year from the heartache of losing a baby. And whereas recognizing National Stillbirth Prevention and Awareness Day is an opportunity to increase awareness, support evidence-based prevention efforts, promote research, encourage improved data collection and greater understanding, and provide support for those who have experienced a stillbirth. Whereas last year in 2024, the bipartisan Maternal and Child Health Stillbirth Prevention Act was signed into law, representing a critical first step in addressing the stillbirth crisis at the federal level. And therefore be it resolved, the Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees declares September 19th, 2025 a Stillbirth Awareness and Prevention Day, recognizing tens of thousands of families in the country that have endured a stillbirth and seizing the opportunity to keep other families from experiencing the same tragedy. So I move this. Second, all in favor?
I'd like to
Yes.
just say really quickly that I worked for 12 years as a doula. And I did some training on how to help families through this. And this is really important, and I'm really grateful that you worked on this, Alex. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Yeah, and just a big shout out again to you, Belka Graves, for, you know, all your hard work on this issue. I know she couldn't be at this meeting, because she's caring for her elders. But she's been leading the way, across the country and the state, and she's our own, you know, just published a book on
How
this.
lucky are we?
I know. Yeah, so thank you, Velko, for, you know, leading the way on this. All right, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you, Malcolm.
Do you want to talk zoning code stuff, Mike?
Yeah. Up on the screen for you. So we covered the first 2 sections last meeting. I did come up with a name for that district that we were, and as much as I like Bill's idea of M3, I came up with Waterside, which is somewhat similar because all the properties are along the river. It's not the flood zone, which is confusing with, so
I like it.
it's a placeholder for the moment. You can, you know, feel free to come up with a better idea. I think it works so. So, and I did write the description of it, sort of removing the emphasis on agriculture and just saying that it is could be used for agriculture, but it's their properties that are not intended for residential or commercial structures. And they're intended to be, you know, kept in open space or used for municipal purposes or agricultural purposes. So, so we left off with the use standards. So, again, just to keep you guys sort of in the loop. I will be unable to attend your next meeting because I have a conflict with the county planning board, which is moving their meeting from the 1st to the 8th because of Yom Kippur. So, so I won't be here at the next meeting. So after tonight, the next time you'll see me with this is a month from now. So with the use standards, again, I'll just go over the red section. So we've updated the Schedule A to be sure that all the uses are in the schedule that are defined. We clarified that special uses also are subject to site plan. That's an inherent function of special uses that you are also subject to site plan, but it wasn't stated in the code. Now it is. And just clarified that minor deviations from an approved site plan can be determined by the building inspector. And, you know, it's something like if somebody creates a flagstone walkway in their front yard, you know, does that need to come back to the planning board for site plan? Probably not. So it allows the building inspector a little bit of latitude to allow minor deviations from an approved site plan. Really get into detail with uses not defined. This is a new concept for the new Paltz, and most codes say if it's not defined, it's not allowed.
Right.
A more modern concept is saying, because new uses are evolving all the time, much faster than the codes are. So what this is saying is if a use is proposed that does not fit any definition within the code, it's sent to this body. You would hold a public hearing on the use in the district, not the specific project, but the use that's being proposed. You would go through the process of a public hearing. If at the end of the day, you decided this is a valid use in these districts, you would adopt that into the code. It's somewhat of an amendment to the code, but it's for one particular use. It then goes into the code as a special use, goes to the planning board for review. I think it's a better way to encourage entrepreneurship, thinking out of the box, you know. And it also, the elected body is who makes the laws, so it's sending it back to you rather than just sending it to now, if it's allowed in any district, but it's not allowed in the particular district where the person wants to do it, then it's not allowed. Because it's already defined, it's already in the code. But a brand new use that nobody's ever thought of, it's oftentimes called a use not contemplated. So I think I'm hearing that you,
I love that.
and the recourse for it is an Article 78.
Right.
So if you guys say no, and somebody wants to challenge that, or if you say yes, and somebody wants to challenge it, it's an Article 78. Prohibited uses are not really addressed in the current code. You have the natural gas activities, which is a totally different section of the village code. It's a land use, it should be in the zoning code. The downside too, it occurred to me recently of uses and standards that are in other sections of code. The zoning board of appeals has no jurisdiction over those. They only have jurisdiction over zoning.
Right.
A real quick example, we had a woman who's coming to the planning board, she wants to widen her driveway to 20 feet. Within the transportation, within the traffic section, excuse me, of the code, there is a maximum of 18 feet wide for a residential driveway. I'm not sure why that number was arrived at, but she doesn't have the ability to appeal to the ZBA for that. So, I mean, she's fine. She's going from 20 to 18, not too big a deal, but I'm just pointing that out. The adult entertainment uses already were in your code as prohibited, have left them. Motels were currently in your code as prohibited. except for any non-conforming ones. I don't know if there are any, I don't believe there are, but we've still left it the same way. So if by chance there is a non-conforming one, they can continue. Junkyards, as we've defined here, is an ad I've done. I just personally don't feel like it fits in the village character. Or a dismantling operation. They can be a smaller scale, but I still think we don't have a lot of large parcels in the village. So I think those two, and we could potentially add some more things there with feedback from the planning board or from you. So that was all of Article 3. Article 4 is development and dimensional standards, new title, but it's more covers what it is. It's gonna cover all the dimensional standards and all the development standards. First is just simply stating that whenever any type of change happens on a property, the building inspector has to make a determination. Whenever a change in land use occurs, even if it doesn't have new construction, it does require a zoning determination, which is a term that we've defined here, which it goes to the municipal code officer to review and determine what standards need to be met, what sections of code apply. And with the Municalab that we're using now, that makes it really easy for him. As a matter of fact, I just got a compliment today on how easy Municalab was from a developer.
Oh, that makes me so glad to hear.
Yeah, he said, this is really easy, thank you. Was his direct quote.
Oh, yeah, we should definitely at some point make sure we get some points for the housing smart
Okay,
thing, yeah.
yep.
I'll put that on my to-do list for next month.
Lot development standards will continue to be Schedule B. Again, the changing the word regulations to standards, it's just a better nomenclature. Just stating, and this is already in existence, it's just not worded in the code, that all structures, including residential, unless they're exempt by the code, whether it's a primary or accessory, have to meet New York State Uniform Fire Prevention Building Code and ICC requirements. ICC is International Code Council, and that's who the New York State building codes are modeled from their recommendations. Minimum lot requirements, we've kept that all the same. This is a shift here, and I'll be curious for your feedback. So currently, the maximum number of principal buildings per lot on a residential, no more than one principal building shall be permitted on a single lot, except in accordance with subsection D2 below. What I'm proposing is that you strictly use density as what is set in your code. You have a large enough parcel and you can put two separate structures, two one-family homes on a piece of property. Why not, rather than forcing them to be joined together, creating something that is much bigger than the surrounding areas? And my argument is that when you look at a piece of property from the street, nobody knows where the line is. If you see a house here and a house here, you don't know if there's a line in between or not in between. I mean, maybe you do by looking at the driveway or something like that, but so my thought behind this is that, so the minimum lot area required for a single use, single building or single dwelling would be the way it would be done. So you don't have to answer yes or no now. I mean, think about it. That is a significant change. It is the way more rural communities do it. I think it's the way the town does it. I'm not gonna say that with 100% certainty. It is the way other towns do it, I know for certain.
Yeah, and so that actually, just to throw out there, that would address some of the, that we've seen around the county, like kind of like Bucko ideas, where like, then people were like, well, that wouldn't work in New Paltz because of exactly that, where it's like two split up. Yeah, so that's cool.
Now, what I have done though is left, you have a section about residential dwellings that this used to say, other than single family or two family dwellings, said proposed many as 3 detached principal buildings. So what I have done is set a maximum of 3 residential buildings on one lot.
Right.
I think there's few lots in the village where you can
Yeah.
put more. If you did, they would probably classify as a multifamily.
Right.
We may have to, and I gotta let Will and Emily look at that, we may have to do a carve out for multifamily, because I may have sort of boxed us into a corner with the words, but I just wanna look at it again. The distance between them has to, either meet fire code or be, the average of the heights of the buildings, and that's sort of normal for fire prevention. If there's a fire on one, if the other one is far enough away, unlikely it's gonna be an issue. Maximum lot coverage still remains the same. A little bit of a shout out to the Ulster County Planning Board. They created in 2018, a community design manual. What we're saying is, and it is very well done, and many communities are using it as their guidelines. So for all lot development, referred municipal agencies shall use the guidelines set forward in that document. Multiple permitted uses on the same property, we would allow them. Yard setback requirements will apply to the lot perimeter, provided building separations meet the fire standards. Lot area exceptions, so for lots located in the NBR, the Gateway, and the B2, which are your mixed use, where multiple permitted uses, which include a residential use proposed in the same structure, the required lot area shall be the larger lot area required for either use. It may or may not matter, because I'm almost thinking now that I'm saying that in the NBR, Gateway, and B2, the setbacks are exactly the same for residential and non-residential. If that's the case, I could probably take this out. I just thought of that as I was saying it. We are saying, though, if they're in separate structures, that you have to do a combined, the sum of the minimum required, the lot area, as set forth. The density bonus, we had talked about that, where the planning board can grant a 2 times density bonus for 3 situations. One is green energy, with specific standards for it. One is affordable housing, where a minimum of 1 dwelling unit or no less than 25%. So your requirement in the code is either a 10 or a 15%. If you find a developer who comes in and says, I'll give you 25% affordable housing units, A, we say thank you. And B, we're gonna give them a double density bonus.
Like, isn't that only for R3 and R2?
Yeah. It's only because the NBR and the B2 have no.
They don't penalize for density.
Right. But it would work in the R3. Now, they still would need to meet the other standards,
For sure.
but I think, your call if you wanna do it or not, but I think it's worthwhile to,
Seems good.
even if only a couple properties ever fit the qualification.
Yeah, it'd be most likely an R3 thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Senior housing, we had talked about that because you've had different densities for senior housing in the schedule. We carved that out and left it as just residential, but now we will give the double density, which is about the equivalent of what you were doing before in your schedule. Adaptive reuse, this is where if somebody has a structure that rather than knocking it down, they will reuse the structure for a new use. They don't need to get variances for any setback areas with lot depth, because they're gonna reuse the structure. It has to be a use allowed in the zoning district, and new construction can't further violate the standards that are that they aren't meeting. So they can't like add a porch further into a setback, but they can, as long as they don't increase the violation, they're allowed to continue. Height standards, we left it the same, put in an exception though, where a building can be allowed to be, by the planning board, to be increased in height up a maximum of 15 feet if vehicle parking is incorporated inside the structure. Decrease in lot coverage, obviously, by doing that of pervious surface. So if you're willing to put it in, we're gonna let you build up another story in return for not putting your parking outside. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. The planning board does have to make a finding with the waiving. See, what you're doing is you're authorizing the planning board to waive the code, which is legal. But they would have to make a finding that this will not create a significant impact on the community in the process by raising that height. Yard standards have remained pretty much the same. I have put in a section where if you have two properties that exceed that are closer to the street, if you look at the picture, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can, instead of meeting the setback that is required, you can build out to the average of the two buildings that you're surrounding. It actually keeps it more in harmony with the built community rather than
That's a good.
forcing it to follow the code.
Yeah, I think that's something that we had happen in my neighborhood where everybody wanted less front yard and more backyard.
Yep.
And I wish my neighbors had been able to do that because everybody would have been happier.
Well, we got rid of our one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten rid of the R1 district, so, yeah.
R2 forever.
Woo-hoo.
Oh, this part G, if any of the infrastructure or the access to the parcel is in another municipality, the final approval has to be granted from that municipality for whatever it is, whether it's whether it's an electric connection or, you know, whatever, infrastructure or access. Because what happens is sometimes we'll approve it and then it just kind of becomes limbo because we don't have authority over the access. Design of structures, I have sent this section to the design review board and asked them to take a peek at it. I left in what is existing in there in the black. I have added a little bit, including building facades visible from adjoining streets or properties, that they should be similar in character, so to integrate into the community and use vegetative buffers. They have to be sited to provide safe fire and emergency access. That's a given already, but it doesn't hurt to say it again. All mechanical equipment, we're asking that it be screened or landscaped, and not be located on the building roof, preferably. And we realize that sometimes it has to. Anything in historically traditional architectural design, respect the existing height, scale. These actually these are requirements. And then there's a whole section of building design preferences. I'm gonna skip over these for now because I think the design review board is the better board to weigh in on this.
Yeah.
And I've sent it to them and asked them to. General performance standards, these have to be when any change is proposed, which is determined that a building permit, site plan, special use, and area variance is. These standards have to apply regardless of planning board approval. So if somebody even just applies to the building department, they have to meet these standards. they will have to be met before a certificate of occupancy or certificate of compliance. We are gonna allow the planning board to increase setbacks from side and rear up to 50% where there's a residential and a commercial property neighboring each other. Gives them a little more flexibility to get a little more privacy and enjoyment for the residential use. They also can require a fence or a berm or a dense planting. Any property which has more than 1 acre of disturbance, which requires a SWIP, we are going to say, no matter what the use is, if you're disturbing more than 1 acre, it's a special use. We're also gonna say, if you're developing land, and we made a change on this when we talked about this earlier, the 11 to 15% slope over a distance of 100 feet. That was sort of the compromise of what we came up with, when we talked about the slopes, like maybe 3 meetings ago. You didn't have a section about inflammables. It's in fire code, but it's now in here. Electrical disturbances. Noise, you have a chapter 143, which I've referenced. I have quoted the DEC's guidelines for assessing and mitigating noise. This is kind of a guidance for the planning board of how to review an application in terms of noise, either for ongoing use of a property or for construction. Vibration, air pollution, all standards, open discharge, all standards. Have written a very substantial outdoor lighting standard. We did not have really much of anything in there, as do most codes. I will tell you, it's probably the #1 call we get about complaints in the building department. Is outdoor.
Someone talk to me about stuff.
Yeah, so we've set a bunch of standards for the planning board to be able to review. We've also set what needs a review by the building inspector. So, because if something isn't in front of the planning board has no authority to do anything about it, but the building inspector, say an apartment, we had an example, an apartment complex changed their lighting.
Yes,
And it
that
was
happens.
very
Started around.
he was the one who was affected by it. This code will solve that. Very good definitions of it. It also is modernized to deal with LEDs and new types of lighting. Pictures. I'm a big fan of pictures showing what full cutoff fixtures look like and what full shielded fixtures look like, the difference between them.
That's good. That's helpful.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Is there something about color?
Yep, definitely have color temperature, back under the C, color rendering index. And then correlated color temperature. And I can tell you, based on my 30 years in the entertainment business, I did stage lighting. So lighting is one thing that I do really know very well. And this is a combination of probably 4 different codes that I sort of cherry picked the good parts of each one of the codes and created this one. So we'll see what the county has to say when we get to that. Feel free to look through it. We'll be starting to get feedback from the planning board starting at their next meeting on this.
Director of Planning and Zoning, Mike Layden wants me to live like a Broadway show. That's the conversation now.
No, this
And that is the headline for you, Terrence, on a silver flag.
Whole section of prohibited lighting
I was
fixtures.
just gonna say, this is like just a testament to the complaints that you've got, like, you
Okay.
guys had to hear. I'm
Yes.
like,
And sadly, many of the
Same thing.
complaints we received, when Alex and I would go look at the code, we would say,
Well,
we understand what you're saying,
but we
but
can't.
we have no jurisdiction. And we would go talk to the owners and we had success. I will say, we had a great deal of success in dialogue,
Mhm.
saying, will you help us out? Will you try to solve this problem?
Because people wanna comply.
People want
they
to,
wanna be
they want to
able-
do the right thing. They want to be good
And
neighbors.
all we had previously, and that's what we used in the
Yeah.
MBR and the B2 was the standards. So
Yeah.
it's really great that you actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, blinking, scrolling, those type of lights, searchlights,
Helps in the night.
strobe lights. Uplighting except for flagpoles and historic structures or approved landscape lighting. It can be done well and tastefully. Exceptions, if you have a temporary fair or carnival or a religious event or civic use, any light needed for overnight construction, it's gonna happen. Flag uplighting, I didn't touch it. It's one of those things we just leave alone. Seasonal and holiday lighting. I did put in removed within 30 days of the holiday or event. You can decide if you want that or not want that. I know there's some people who leave them up year round, but, outdoor lighting of any government building, although I did say compliance with the standards is encouraged. So you can break your own laws, but we encourage that we also follow the laws.
Back to the holiday lighting,
Yep.
I don't wanna make a rule about removing it, just
Yeah.
because next time there's a pandemic, I want people to do the things that they did.
Okay,
To bring joy.
I
Not
will,
that I'm saying
I will
maybe
stop,
next time.
I will stop provided it's removed, I will remove, provided it's removed within 30 days.
Yeah.
When I get back to the,
What's your mind on that one?
other version.
Yeah, I think both sides.
Historic style fixtures can be exemptions, you know, sometimes the look is important. General standards, they have to be dark sky compliant and the IES, which is the International Illumination. No,
Yeah.
I forgot what the I stands for. Illumination Engineering Society, I
Yes,
think is what it is.
yes.
They have 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. I've included it here. Useful, targeted, low level, controlled, and warm colored.
Yes.
Uniformity, energy efficiency, maintenance, shielding. People can do string and rope lights, provided no individual lamp exceeds 50 lumens, because they can get out of control really quickly.
Like that IES, do they have recommendations on measuring the averages?
Yes, and that's all built into, when we get to particular types of uses. You already had some in your code, but I've built into it the maximum levels of illumination. This picture, I don't know the source of it, but it has been making its way around codes for decades. It shows what's unacceptable and what's acceptable. Glare control, driveway lighting, security lighting. So right there, Bill, illumination shall comply with current IES standards. So whatever their current standards are is what we will follow. Walkways, active building entrances, infrequently used building entrances, obviously you need a lower intensity there. Height standards, again, we'll get feedback from the county on this. Not doing a lot about residential, but did set some standards for height of lights in residential districts. Because the higher up, the more expensive. Parking area, I will want to get some feedback, but I've set a maximum for the poles to be no greater than 15 feet. We want to encourage greater in number, lower in height, and lower in light level. Hours of operation standards, people were requesting, encouraged for automatic shutoffs. Then for different types of uses, non-residential, so this is the time frame. Shall not remain continuously on for resident, non-essential outdoor, 10 PM until dawn. Non-essential. Essential from, may be in operation continuously from 10 PM to dawn, provided the illumination is no greater than a 0.5 foot candles. That's the standard that they're measured. Light trespass onto neighboring properties, specific uses, ATMs have a very specific code about intensity levels. Same with gas station lighting, the canopy lighting, the Pump Island area, the driveway, recreational facilities, lighting for those. We'll set some standards. Street lighting, I will want to bounce that section off Blue and see if he agrees, but I basically copied the what I found to be the industry standards for street lighting. Parking area lighting, again, we'll look for feedback, but those are, sign lighting is addressed here as well as in our sign section. And this is the administration enforcement. So building permit required for installation of any new outdoor lighting fixture or for the substantial alteration or relocation of existing outdoor fixtures. Single family and two family dwellings exempted from the requirement, but the lighting standards still are applicable. So if we get a complaint about a residential property where our light is like shining into a neighbor's, we can still apply the standards, but they don't need a permit, but we can still apply the standards. The application requirements of what they'll have to go through. Nuisance lighting, if the building inspector determines there's a problem and how they can deal with it. Non-conforming lighting. Now, this sounds like a long time, but basically saying shall be brought into conformance within 5 years of the effective date unless granted a waiver by the zoning board of appeals. Some codes have 10 years, some codes have 1 year. I kind of tried to pick a middle ground, and 5, it may sound like a lot, and maybe it is a lot, maybe it should be less. So that's one I definitely want some feedback of how long a non-compliant light should be allowed to remain on. But if you come back to the planning board for your property at any time in between, you need to make all your lighting compliant at that time. Next, a whole section on landscaping standards, which is somewhat similar to what you have, just a little bit more specifics. I definitely want to get feedback on this, especially from the planning board members that are very involved in the landscaping with the environmental board. So, and what trees need to be preserved and things like that. Basically, a performance guarantee. If a project gets approved in November, they're not going to be able to complete their landscaping, obviously, immediately. So it gives the planning board the ability to create a performance bond that is filed to guarantee the landscaping. If the landscaping is not completed by a certain time, the village can contract with somebody and take that funding and do it. And that is all covered under performance bonds.
I'm gonna kind of just hit pause for now and just continue.
Well, let me just finish stormwater management because I'm about to get to the next section.
Okay.
So stormwater management is more or less the standards. I have put in that if a stormwater retention pond if the design capacity is reduced by 50%, the code enforcement officer can mandate that it be cleaned. Because you have a lot of stormwater situations where sediment builds up very quickly and then they're useless. So I'll stop here. So we have the standards for the residential the commercial and the mixed use, which are basically still all the same as they were with some minor tweaks. So we'll stop off here.
How you doing?
And we'll press on at the next few meetings and hopefully get this to a point. I'd like to shoot by the end of the year, but I don't know, it's getting closer and closer quicker, so.
For the,
So, just,
Yeah.
is there any mention in the code about rain gardens?
Not,
We had the discussion.
not specifically rain gardens, but in the landscaping section, it does sort of list them as an option of how to deal with things. You know, the planning board has a lot of latitude in their review. If they mandate a rain garden, you're building a rain garden, so,
But there's nothing in code to
There's
define
nothing-
what.
to define what it is,
Yeah.
we could do that. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check. I don't remember if I defined it. I can
Yeah,
certainly-
that's probably something you should,
Okay,
I bet you there's definitions for that.
Oh, definitely.
We can-
definitely. We'll add a definition
Okay.
for it, and I'll make some mentions in the landscaping section for it.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
Thank
I move,
No problem.
I move bill of claims.
second,
All in favor?
Uh,
Do you want to do village board?
Nah,
Okay, is there a ZBA update, Mike?
one application for a shed in between, the principal structure and the street on Plains Road.
Okay. I move that we, adopt the law that we closed the public hearing for regarding the Affordable Housing Board and, points for volunteer firefighters. All in favor? I move the resolution authorizing Attorney Will Frank to file litigation with New Paltz Apartments that we spoke about earlier.
second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Any other thing we should do?
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to stop the share, and for some reason it won't let me.
That's fine. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third, fourth, fifth.
You can't adjourn on next door share.
Oh.
There we go, that was easy.
We don't even need.
Good night.
You know, it's-